I forgot to add myself there. I was waiting for an ad. There was an ad that my show producer usually puts on. But anyway, um, hopefully y'all can see me and hear me. And that's very, very, very important there. Okay. Now, these four ways you can interact with this podcast, I'll go over them. The first one is you've discovered this room, which is you found me on Facebook, Fight CPS. And so you clicked it, you're on YouTube. I'm using the SteamYard application, and I do this twice a day. I do it at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time for an hour, and then I do it at 7 o'clock at night, Pacific Standard Time for an hour. And that being said, um, I've been doing this since March of 2023. And I know um, this podcast has helped people out. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a family man. I've been married for 31 years, and I'm a loving father. I have 6 children, 3 young ones, 3 older ones. And I too had a CPS case where my children were abducted, trafficked into foster care, and alienated from their parents, all by the agency that I call the Child Protection System. It's CPS for short, Child Protection System. It's the branch of social services that is posed to protect our children from neglect or abuse, and also help out with the needs of the family with food, clothing, housing, education, medical, and a job. Also, if they need to disrupt your family or take your children away temporarily, they're supposed to do what's called family reunification because the best parents are the biological parents. It is proven that they are the best parents. So it's very important that you do family reunification. CPS has been very strange lately because they go a different direction. Welcome, Lori Hiller. Lori Hiller comes to our room from time to time. She's been coming to me since March, and she always puts a name in there, and she's talking about Lori Hiller Mullins. So I'm glad you're here to join me, Lori. And I still don't know what city or state you're from. Now, now that you're in this room here, you can subscribe to my podcast by subscribing down below. And then also, if you want to get notified when I'm going to be on, hit the notification button. Now you can do some emojis. You can do thumbs up, hearts, and smiley faces. Also, you can give me stars. You can give me stars, and that'd be really nice to give me stars. And just by being in this room is all you have to do. You can listen and take notes. Now, let's say that you're at a point where now you want to um, ask a question or make a comment. So when typing in your comment or question, it must pertain to CPS. It must pertain to CPS. That's what we're in here for. I know there's a lot of politics going on, and it can be hard. Please show your name. And all I need is your first name. I don't need your last name, just your first name. And the reason why I ask you to show your name is because a lot of you on your Facebook pages or YouTube, you have a different name on there. It's sort of a creative name because you're trying to support something. So somebody may have things called like psychedelic hippos or dancing butterflies or gone with the wind. So I appreciate that creativity, and I really hope you can pursue that. But I like the first name like Debbie, Kathy, Mary, Bob, Bill, some simple name there. Then you want to follow it with a city. And if you don't list the city, please list your county. It's important for me to get a feel for all the CPS cases in the country. It's really important. So list your city or county. and then follow with your state. Follow with your state. And the other countries around us, this is a worldwide podcast, can get the internet, have also texted messages. So I'm open to all the countries. I'm open to all the countries. I Everybody that's involved in CPS needs to be helped because it's an agency that's very corrupt and that you just don't know um, what they're going to do next. It's the worst government agency there is, worse than the IRS. And I'll get into more details about that. Now, these countries, so far we've heard from is Bangladesh, New Delhi, India, the continent of Africa. We've had Liberia in the northwest along the coast. We've had the west coast province of South Africa. Then we have Rwanda in Central East Africa near Lake Victoria. Then we have Mozambique above South Africa on the east side of the continent across from Madagascar, the island of Madagascar. And then we go up to Europe, and I've had England, Scotland, Wales, the United Kingdom, and then I've had Denmark and Sweden. Also, I cannot forget, I've had one country from the Middle East, but it was in Arabic, so I couldn't make out what the country's name was. Then we go across the pond to North America, and I have had texts from people in Canada, from British Columbia, in Alberta, Vancouver, all over Canada. I've even had a person from Alaska, which is part of the United States, and very interesting comments. Everybody pretty much has been very nice and pleasant. That's all I ask you to be in this room, to be courteous to one another and help one another. This is a terrible thing you're going through, this child protection system. It's one of the worst things you can encounter. I have no idea what school's out today where all this noise is coming from. And I've even had the first Indian nation in Canada. They're called the First Nation. The Canadian Indians are called the First Nation. Our Indians in the United States are called the Native American Indians. So that's how the difference between the two, the First Nation and then the Native American Indians. And that's also including the Indians up in Alaska too. But I've talked to them. Also, I've talked to all 50 states, including Washington, D.C., and I've talked to the Lakota Sioux Reservation at Rosebud, South Dakota, and I've talked to the Cherokee at Oklahoma and the Osage at Oklahoma. So Indian children are really important. There is a act of 1978 called the Indian Child Welfare Act. It's very important. I'll explain to you about that later. But that does protect Indian children and Indian families. So we go down south of the border down in Mexico. I had a person from Mexico City actually called in, and they were looking for their daughters in Louisiana. Then down south in South America, I've had Guyana, which is east of Venezuela, on the east coast of South America and north of Brazil. And they had texted in a CPS question there too. Now we go across the Pacific, and we go to the land down under Australia. I had several people from Australia, one from the Gold Coast and one from the Melbourne area of the Victoria state of Victoria. Anyway, as you can see, CPS is everywhere. Now, every state will call their CPS a different name. Like in Arizona, it's Department of Children's Services. In Kentucky, it's the Cabinet. In California, it's the Children Protection Services, CPS. But when I say CPS, I mean the Children Protection System that includes all the agencies, in all the counties and all the states. That's what I'm talking about. Or worldwide. Just CPS is all you have to say. It's a child protection system. And then also, when you type in, can you be complete with your case? Start off, after you've given your name and your city or county or state or city and country, then tell me a little bit about your case before you ask the question. Like, what is your family makeup? Are you husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, lovers? Um, are you a partnership? Are both parents involved in the children? Or is one parent absent? You're a single parent? Or also, are all the parents the same with all the children? Do the children have different parents? Then I'd like to know the ages and the sexes of the children. And then how did they take your children? Did you give them up? Did they have a warrant? Did they get into your home? How did they get your children? And lastly, where are you at on your case? Are you at the beginning or the end? So that's how you would do comments. When you call into my number, which I give you very shortly, you do the same thing about your case being complete. Now, the third way to interact with this podcast is be a guest on my show. And I'd love to have you. I can have up to 9 guests. With me makes 10. All you have to do is email our show producer. Her name is Grace, and she works very hard behind the scenes, and she helps produce this podcast. It helps me do a good performance. I want to thank Grace. Thank you. And then you would just send her an email and say, I want to be on Bob's Sunday evening show or Bob's Saturday morning show or Bob's Friday evening show, whatever time you want. It's either morning or evening, and it's Monday through Sunday. So one of those times. And you have a lot to pick from. And if you want to be in more than one show, I'm glad to have you. Now, getting on the podcast, you're going to email her Grace at vincentwdavis.com. vincentwdavis.com. That's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And you just put in that email what show times, and then she'll get back to you, give you the link for the StreamYard application so you can join us. Now, don't lose that link. If you happen to drop out, you use that link again. I'll put you back on. It's not a one-time thing. As long as you go on that same day for that same show, the link will work. The link will work. So it's important that you don't lose it and keep it. Also, Grace will tell you what to do on the podcast and what the do's and don'ts. Like right off the bat, there's no eating on the podcast or smoking. Also, we don't use the names of social workers or children or judges. And so those are important. Also, try to use a computer. If you don't have a computer, a phone will do. Make sure you have a good, strong internet connection. Make sure your lighting and phone are set up, and check it out all ahead of time. Grace will help you all the way to help to get on. And help you adjust your camera and your microphone. She's really tech savvy. And so she will help you do that. So you can be one of my guests. Now, I'd love to have you. I've had as much as 4 people at one time, but maybe one day I'll have all 9 of you, and then we can have 10. So that's the third way. The last way is to call into my office phone number. It's 626-698-0990. That's the direct line to my phone. It's my office phone number. We use Vonage as a phone application that the office uses. So it's an internet-based phone line, and it's called Vonage. All you do is call me at 626-698-0990, and I'll put you on speakerphone. Make sure your microphone's turned up and everybody can hear you. And then you can talk like you're like a guest, but you won't have your cam activated. And you won't get to see a lot of things that I see. So those are the 4 ways. One way is just by being in the podcast. You found me there at Facebook. A second way is that if you want to express a comment or a question about CPS, then you would text that to me. And then the third way is if you want to be a guest on the podcast and you're going to email requests, and that would go to Grace. And lastly is the phone number. The phone is live, you can take phone calls, and if that's what you like to do. So you can observe, you can listen, you take notes, you can text messages, and you can call in. Those are all ways you can interact. That's all that you can interact with. So I've told you about the four ways. Now I have a person from Richmond, Kentucky, on the line with me. Her name is Faye, and she helps me with my podcast. She's a regular spokesperson for the podcast. She's a single mother, and she has a 23-year-old son who she's trying to get guardianship of because he's special needs. She lost her daughter a couple years ago. She hasn't seen her daughter, and I think her daughter's 12, and she lost her when she was 4. So maybe 7 years would be about right. But anyway, she still keeps fighting for her daughter. Her daughter was taken not because she did anything wrong, it's because how corrupt they are. And she now has contacted a new ombudsperson and a new cabinet phone number in place that will help her with her case. She never got a chance to show her all the things about being a good mother. They did not believe her. They just said, we need to take away your child. Thing that hurt Faye, she too was in foster care as a young child 5 different times, up all through her teenage years. Miraculously, she got a high school education and a college degree. I'm really impressed about her. She had a rough upbringing because her mom was an alcoholic. Her mom has passed away, but she loved her mom. So right now, Faye is trying to get some type of contact with her daughter, but she'll talk to that. So Faye, this morning, what would you like to do this morning? Would you like to talk about core digest, some CPS topics, or talk about the social workers, or talk about my case, or talk about the 75 topics that I get open?
Well, you can start with talking about the judge in Kentucky that got shot.
Okay. Yesterday, I believe it was my morning show, or was it my evening show?
Well, it was brought up on the evening show, but it happened during the day.
Yeah. Anyway, we came across some judges that have been shot and killed. And in Kentucky, a judge was killed in his chambers by the sheriff. Now, the sheriff was angry because the judge slept with his daughter. I guess his daughter is underage, and that's the first step. You out there, don't sleep with people underage. Don't have sex when you're underage. I mean, get real. Um, you need to be careful out there. That gets you in all kinds of trouble, especially if you're an older person. Anyway, the sheriff was so irate that he shot the judge because I guess apparently the judge didn't do anything. I guess the judge had a dark side, which a lot of these judges do have dark sides.
They
You,
most definitely do here in Kentucky.
yeah,
We had another judge named Tim Nolan, and he was a judge up in northern Kentucky, and he had got caught trafficking women and children from the foster system, and was bribing them with less jail time, less probation, with drugs and alcohol to do sexual favors for him while on the job. in the judges' chambers.
Well, where's the ethics? I thought all judges have to swear ethics. I thought policemen and judges swear to uphold the ethics of their job.
Well, I mean, all these professionals that work for the government swear to do that, but most of them don't.
Wow. Yeah, that was a very tragic thing with this Kentucky job. It was happening yesterday. That's happened so fast. Did you find any more information about it today?
Nah, I haven't looked.
Okay. I wonder if they have
Look up Judge Tim Nolan from Kentucky.
look up who now?
Judge Timothy Nolan. Nolan, I believe.
All right. Timothy Lou Nolan was born in 1947. He's 1 year older than me.
No, not the same. No, that's not it.
Oh,
Yeah, not it.
hold on, hold
Judge
on.
Tim Nolan. Tim Nolan.
There's a Tim Nolan in the Kentucky Court of Appeals,
Mm-hmm.
Campbell County. Does it ring a bell?
Here, I got it right here.
Yeah, this is Tim Nolan and Robert
I got it,
Poole.
Bob.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I got it.
Tell
It's right here.
tell the listeners about it.
It says, this is the Cincinnati Enquirer.com, Newport, Kentucky. It says, Judge Timothy Nolan, crimes unfolded as letters from his victims were read in court on Friday. It says, Tim Nolan ruined my life. One teenage victim wrote in her letter, "You ruined my childhood, teenage years, and made me lose hope, and I hate you." She said that she was the target of that letter, sat dressed in a gray suit and leg shackles. A former judge, school board member, and longtime Republican activist, Timothy Nolan, silently as prosecutors read the anguished words of women he coerced into having sex for favors. I was forced to stay in his apartment in Alexandria and was told if I ever left, he would call the police and I would go back to jail because I was on the run, wrote one victim. I ended up turning myself in because jail was better than one more second spent with that awful man, Tim Nolan. Nolan, 72 now, will serve 20 years in prison for human trafficking and must register as a sex offender for life. A judge decided Friday. He'll be eligible for parole in 4 years. It was all part of the plea agreement Nolan agreed to in February before he tried to back out of a deal a month later. The threats and abuse end today, Blake said. Tim Nolan knew vulnerability when he saw it. Case in Campbell County Circuit Court garnered national attention. Nolan's brash style made him one of the more visible campaigners for President Trump in northern Kentucky, though since his arrest, many in the campaign publicly questioned his claim of heading the campaign in Campbell County. This has been one of the oddest cases I've ever seen, Lake to the courtroom as she started the sentencing on Friday. The charges against Nolan involved 19 women, 7 of which were under the age of 18, and go back as far as 2004. All but 2 were addicted to opioids, Whaley said. He would often visit a local women's shelter in Covington, Transitions Women's Residential Addiction Program, and was a frequent volunteer at drug court to meet women addicted to opioids, said Assistant Attorney General Barbara Whaley, the special prosecutor in the case. Transitions didn't respond to a message seeking comment. Whaley didn't say what drug court. District Judge Karen Thomas, who runs a drug court in Campbell County, told the Enquirer the drug court doesn't have volunteers and Nolan had no involvement. Whaley wouldn't comment after the hearing. Letters read by Whaley described in detail how Nolan plied young women over the past decade with heroin. He extorted sex for drugs. Tim Nolan knew vulnerability when he saw it. So one of the victims wrote her impact statement, "He used my addiction as a tactic for control." As prosecutors investigated the case last year, they found many of his victims in jail. Addiction made them do whatever Nolan asked. I went to jail after jail to talk to these vulnerable victims and learn what it means to be dope sick, Whaley told the judge on Friday. It's 5 or 6 times worse than the worst flu, body ache, fever, etc., that you'll do anything to get another hit. Stopped by a 16-year-old with courage, Nolan used his past experience as a judge and attorney to intimidate. He served as a district judge in Campbell County in the 1970s and 1980s. He was active in local politics. He told victims he knew judges and powerful people who could put them in jail and take their children away, Whaley said. It was a 16-year-old girl in December 2016 who stood up to him. She approached her high school counselor to make an allegation of sexual abuse against her family's landlord. The family had lived on Nolan's property in southern Campbell County by a dive bar he owned called the Rabbit Hole. The prosecutor praised this young girl's courage on Friday. We can't imagine the courage it took, Whaley said. If not for her, none of these problems would have been discovered. None of the other 18 victims would have gotten justice. This girl, in a letter to the court, said she at first hesitated to come forward since her grandparents were trying to get Nolan to sell them a house for $500 a month. I didn't want to give that up, she wrote. We finally had enough room for my family, but one day I broke down and told my counselor. Nolan read a statement in court where he asked for forgiveness from God for all the victims and his family. And it goes on, but I won't read all of it.
Okay. Now, this judge was not killed. This is a different judge that was killed yesterday, right?
Yeah, this is just, we were talking about the sex issues and things like that, sleeping with underage girls, and Timothy Nolan was doing the same thing, just nobody shot him.
Well, there's a pretty big rap sheet. He got 22 years for rape and human trafficking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He provided drugs and alcohol to minors too, exchanged for sex.
For sexual favors. Mm-hmm.
He's currently an inmate at the North Point Training Center in the state of Kentucky, if you want to visit him.
Yeah.
He was the justice of the Kentucky Supreme Court, 6th District. Wow.
Yeah.
He did some weird stuff too. He tried to replace Mitch McConnell.
I can't blame him on that. Kentucky needs to ditch the Mitch.
Yeah. He was appointed by Governor Matt Bevin.
Matt who?
Bevin, Bvein.
Yeah, Matt Bevin. Yeah.
Bevin.
Yeah, Matt Bevin. Which was another piece of crap governor.
He also dressed up in KK costumes every year.
I'm telling you, Bob, when I tell you this is a racist state, you don't believe me.
Yeah, I can imagine dressing up the KKK. Where is Campbell County in relationship to Richmond? South or north?
It's north.
Okay. He had a platform eliminating property tax revenue for schools. Now, how would education be funded if that was suddenly stopped? He was also on the school board. That's dangerous too. He also continued how corrupt Kentucky is. He continued on the school board during his court proceedings.
Yeah.
22 victims he did with, and included 8 juveniles.
Mhm.
Besides rape and human trafficking, he did witness tampering and prostitution, unlawful transaction with a minor, and sodomy.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
And these are judges in Kentucky. Yeah.
Well, I think your judges should be elected, not appointed by the governor. In California, all our dependency judges are elected. He only had to pay a $100,000 fine. He initially pleaded not guilty, but later changed his mind, and he pleaded guilty to 21 counts, going back to 2004.
Because he knew he wasn't going to win that trial. And if he
No.
goes to trial, he'd get more time. So that's why he went back and changed his plea.
Well, that is quite interesting. Now, this other judge that was killed yesterday, what were the details of that one?
From what I had read about it, is that supposedly there was a disagreement between the bailiff, the sheriff bailiff, and it was over his relationship with the sheriff's underage daughter. Apparently, they disagreed on that relationship, and he asked that the judge discontinue that relationship, and I assume he didn't get the answer he wanted, so he shot him.
Oh, brother. Well, the message here that Faye and I are conveying is that CPS is corrupt, and nothing more illustrates that more than my pink ladies. I keep talking about them. They're 8 social workers from Prescott, Arizona. And these ladies wore pink t shirts. That's why I call them the pink ladies. They were social workers of the Department of Children's Services, DCS. And they decided to buy these t shirts and have stenciled on the front professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they said, "Do you know where your children are?" And they paraded around in front of Costco, and Walmart, and Target, Best Buys, all the big name department stores. And the message was atrocious to parents. They saw that, and you see this shirt approach them. It says "professional child kidnappers," and we look at their back. They have on the back, "Do you know where your children are at?" So it was really, that's people ask me who a social worker is. That's who I relate to. So you got to be careful of them, and you got to document everything, and watch yourself. Watch yourself with this agency.
We had director of the Department of Children here, she called herself the Terminator. Proudly called herself the Terminator because she got more parents terminated. So she called herself the Terminator.
Oh, that's a bad way of putting a social worker's name.
That's what she called herself, though.
Jeez.
Everybody, I was standing in the office when my case was going on and heard her talking with her coworkers and them laughing and joking about her calling herself the Terminator, and then her bragging about how many parents that she had had their rights terminated in court.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys got to check out your judges. One thing you can do is Google that name. And my judge, I didn't check him out, but I found out later that he was an automobile repairman, meaning he knew all about claims with automobiles and collision claims, but knew nothing about unification or children or families, juveniles or families. And that was sad. That was really sad. Now, I have about 20 minutes left of the podcast. What else you like to talk about, Faye? Some more of the digest, Core's digest.
Yeah, sure.
Cora Digest is a forum for people that can talk about topics and they get responses. It's a public forum. Now, I've been subscribing to Core Digest with cases related to CPS.
Dang, I got a frog in my throat.
Yeah. Okay, here's a battle over custody. So someone has asked a question, and we'll see what the response is. Okay, after a long battle in court over custody, my child's father was granted rights to take his child. He has not shown up to pick her up one time. Could this be grounds to revoke the custody rights? I don't want to use for someone's convenience. Now, the person that wrote this question was Heidi Jo Ennis, Ennis. And she said that her daughter's father did the same thing. If and when he did show up, he was late. I went back to court, notified the judge that what was going on. I informed her that because he showed up late or not at all, it alters my schedule at the last minute. I'm unable to go to work because I wouldn't have a babysitter set up. I also told her that it restricts me from leaving my house because if he did happen to show up much later, my daughter wasn't there. He would he would without doubt tell the judge that I was keeping my daughter from him. The judge didn't suspend his visitation. She did, however, have a few choice words for him about responsibility. She also told me that I have to wait 15 minutes for him to show up. After that, I was free to take my daughter and continue our day night visitation. I guess it got going to depend on the judge and what he or she wants to do about it. I'd definitely get a new court date and have the issue addressed. He can't just pick up and choose when he wants to be a father. He's either in it or all of it out. What do you think about that one, Faye?
I don't know. What's your opinion on it, Bob?
I'm sorry, ask me that question again, Faye.
What's your opinion on it?
Well, this happens a lot with cases that I've heard on the show and including my own, is when one parent doesn't participate or join in for the benefit of the kids. Some parents want to alienate the kids because they want to get divorced from the parent or get lost in that. Now, in my case, both of us were always supportive of our kids in school, and we did visitations together. We didn't do them separately. Um, it worked out that way. I guess we're lucky. Of course, with my daughter, it was a different story. They did not have any visitation because my daughter controlled. She said she didn't want to see her father, period. No reason or anything. So I never had any visitation rights with my daughter. But it seems like this father here is lazy and he's trying to make it hard on the mother, and that shouldn't be the case. That's a bad case. Let me see if I can find a better one. That one's kind of a weak one to talk about. Oh, here's a good one. This is a good one. I'm glad I found this one here. If a parent doesn't follow a court order, can they have their rights terminated?
They can lose parenting time.
What do you think's going to happen?
Well, the judge ain't gonna just move to terminate right off just because of that. Usually in custody cases, I know in Kentucky it's 50-50. Uh, each parent gets equal parenting time. So, if the judge finds that parent in contempt, then he can lessen that parent's parenting time as a, consequence, before going into harsher consequences.
Okay. Well, this is what Lynn Parks gave an answer for. She's a divorced single mom of two grown up and uh, flowns, almost flowns. I don't know what that means. And she said for almost 10 years, I was told the courts would never grant sole custody to me. The NCP was not exercised the visitations. Do you know what NCP stands for, Faye?
NCP?
Yeah.
Read it again, that what it says about that.
Well, it says for almost 10 years, I was told the courts would never grant sole custody to me. The NCP was not exercised the visitation he asked for me and was granted. I spent 10 years scheduling around his weekends, which were often canceled, and cancellation was minutes, not hours before. Read, yeah.
NCP.
Let me see. I spent 10 years scheduling around his weekends, which were often canceled, and cancellation was minutes, not hours before we were ready to go to the child exchange location. One of the many court order changes had his summer visitation set to be June um, to July 15th. I asked him what time, exactly what day he did, but he wanted to take the kids. This has been after school ended, so the court can decide. Okay. I asked one of the many court orders changes had his summer visitation set to be June to July 15th. I asked him what time, exact day he did not want to take the kids. He had to be after school ended, so the court could not write the exact date. I had already signed the kids up for camp July 15th to Labor Day, so they'd have care while I was working. The day school ended, he told me it would be better if I kept them for the whole summer. Needless to say, it was needless to say, she said it was curry favor of the camp directors and paying more than was accounted for in the support order. But I kept them for the summer and he saw them a few weekends. 5 years after the NCPC stopped seeing or speaking with children at all, I went to the court system. So she kept them for the summer. He saw them a few weekends. 5 years after the NCP stopped seeing or speaking with the children at all, I went to court to request sole custody, which I've been told would never be granted. It was approved. My motivation was not to punish the NCP, though I had a lot of contempt for this long-term responsible behavior that was a huge disruption, disappointment of for my children. My daughter needed a passport for a class trip to Canada. So my daughter needed a passport for a class trip to Canada, and the State Department would not accept their own forms for it could not locate the other parent. So yes, it can happen, but it's not easy for custodial parent to get the court order to agree. That sounds terrible, Faye. What do you think? Faye,
Okay.
what did you think about that one?
I don't know. It's hard to answer about those ones on Quora because you just don't know,
Yeah,
enough of the facts to really give a good answer.
right, right.
I mean, they're mainly just opinions of people.
Yeah, some of them have been good, some have not been good.
Yeah.
I do like with the remaining amount of time to talk about one of my rules, which is hiring an attorney, and about talking to Mr. Davis. The law firm that produces this podcast is Vincent W. Davis and Associates, and it has many attorneys that deal in criminal law, real estate law, divorce law, of course, family law, dependency law, and immigration law. Anyway, it's a whole big law firm with lots of attorneys. Well, you're going to be dealing with an agency called the Child Protection System, and they're so corrupt. You're going to need a real attorney to weed through it because you're not going to get anywhere. If you decide that you want to use the court appointed attorneys, they have a caseload of 30 more clients, and all they know about is criminal law, um, not necessarily the law in dependency court. See, dependency court is specialized in family and juveniles, and you have to be an expert in that because doing fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. If you're going to have to need open heart surgery to your body, you're not going to use a layman to cut open your chest or work on your heart. You're not going to get a plumber or a mechanic. You're going to get a professional doctor. The same thing goes to for attorney. You need a professional attorney, one that's schooled and trained. Now, the court appointed attorneys don't have that background. They're mainly criminal attorneys, and they haven't really fought CPS, and they're just going to try to go simple on it. They just want to push the paperwork through. They're paid and hired by social services, so they already are corrupt. So, so you really don't want to go that route. You want to get yourself a real attorney, one that can fight for you. Now we have an attorney that I talked into him about doing a consultation for 30 minutes. He'll talk to you about your case for 30 minutes for $60. Now, to contact him for that special rate, you need to go on the internet. You need to go on the internet there. You need to go on the internet. Um, Now, I have a ticket that's beaming across the bottom of my screen. And what you want to do is, if you want to um, speak to Mr. Davis, who runs his law firm, I really want to thank for him there. All you're going to do is that you're going to um, book um, a discounted Zoom consultation with Vincent Davis. Now he'll do it for 30 minutes for $60, and it's something that I got him to do that. So he'll meet with you and talk to you for 30 minutes for $60. But you have to go on the internet to do so. Um, you have to go to the website https colon / Candely, CALENDLY .com / apps, APPTS, VWD / Bob Pace, BOBPACE. Now you go there and you book a consultation with them. You pay him the $60 using your credit card, and he'll talk to you on Zoom. He'll talk to you on Zoom. But he's easy to talk to. He's a good man, and he loved to help you. And he'll show you how to navigate with CPS and how to get your children back or hang on to your children there. So for $60, it's a good deal. So you should go to it, but make sure you use the website. You have to go to https colon / um, Candly CALENDLY.com / apps APPTS VWD um, / Bob Pace, and that will get you onto the podcast. Um, so please do that. Now I have another number up there that is maybe confusing up there. It's a 888 That's my office number. That's the number if you want to call in to the office. I spoke to that earlier. So it's very important if you want to see Mr. Davis for $60 for 30 minutes, you go to that website. And again, it's https colon / Now I have about 2 minutes left here, but I tell you, when you do talk to him, he will talk to you. He has a podcast. He does a lot of help for this law firm. Now he has been fighting CPS for 35 years. He knows how to fight CPS and get your children back. He's done lawsuits against them. So he's filed both in state and federal courts and got millions of dollars back. So it really behooves you to talk to him, consultation. Make sure when you talk to him, you tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and he'll give you that 30 minutes on Zoom for $60. And maybe you want to retain him too. But I tell you, it'll make a big difference. I hired him. He got back my children. I did lose my daughter, and I lost my daughter through no fault of anybody except a disgruntled social worker that was very corrupt and to convince my daughter to the social worker had committed perjury, lying on the witness stand, and it it was a hard thing for me to go through my daughter because she was told to divorce her parents and to divorce her parents, seal her name, and to be adopted um, via foster care and have her birth certificate sealed. She emancipated, which she was 12 years old. In California, you can emancipate. And so it hurts me that I did lose my daughter. And I don't like to end on a sad note, but I do want to tell you all, please keep trying to fight for your case. Don't give up. I care about you. Faye cares about you. Everybody that's here listening cares about you. So you can call me again. Now today is special. Today I'm going to be on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not 7 o'clock in the evening. It's 4 p.m. this afternoon. I'll be on. That's Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to a football game with my son. So he's playing in Friday Night Lights, it's high school football. So I want to thank you all for being in this room. God bless you. And um, please take care of yourself and get your children back.